Commander Vexlar stood before the holographic display, watching another world surrender. It was always the same. The Calrith Dominion arrived, demonstrated their superior firepower by obliterating a moon or empty planet, and civilizations fell to their knees within hours. Sometimes minutes. World 147 has transmitted unconditional surrender, reported his tactical officer. Their leaders are requesting mercy for their population. Vexlar barely acknowledged the report. After conquering 147 worlds across 43 star systems, the routine had become mundane. The Calrith had perfected the art of subjugation. Their dreadnoughts could crack planets. Their warriors were biologically enhanced killing machines. Their technology was millennia ahead of most species they encountered. But the true weapon was simpler: inevitability. Every species in the galaxy understood the pattern. Resist and face extinction. Surrender and live as subjects. The mathematics were brutally simple. The Calrith had never lost a war. Why be the first to try? Set course for the next system, Vexlar ordered. Initial scans showed a developing world. Class M planet, single species dominant. They call it Earth. The tactical officer accessed the database. Preliminary data indicates they've barely achieved fusion power. No unified planetary government. Multiple nation-states in constant conflict with each other. Shall we deploy the standard intimidation protocol? Of course. Vexlar's mandibles clicked in what passed for a smile among his species. Another primitive world. This should take less than a day. The fleet of 17 dreadnoughts entered faster than light travel, carrying 10,000 Calrith warriors toward Earth. Behind them lay 147 conquered worlds, each bearing the scars of the Dominion's arrival. Before them lay what they assumed would be World 148. As they traveled, Vexlar reviewed Earth's broadcasts that had leaked into space. Crude entertainment signals, fragments of news, mathematical proofs. A species barely taking its first steps into the cosmos. They hadn't even colonized their own moon permanently. They won't even understand what's happening, mused his second-in-command. Their most powerful weapons are chemical rockets with explosive warheads. Primitive. Almost sad. Vexlar nodded. Log it in the records. Earth, soon to be World 148. Expected resistance, minimal. Expected casualties, 0. Expected time to surrender, 4 hours. The fleet emerged from FTL at the edge of Earth's solar system, their sensors immediately mapping every satellite, station, and vessel humanity had launched. Vexlar looked at the blue-green planet ahead and prepared his standard message of conquest. He had no idea he was about to encounter something the Calrith Dominion had never faced before, a species too stubborn to recognize inevitability. The signal reached Earth on a Tuesday morning. Every screen, every radio, every device capable of receiving a transmission suddenly displayed the same message. In orbit, 17 massive vessels, each the size of Manhattan, materialized like vengeful gods. Commander Vexlar's translated words echoed across the planet, "People of Earth. I am Commander Vexlar of the Calrith Dominion. We have conquered 147 worlds before yours. Your resistance would be futile. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your defenses are meaningless. Surrender within 4 hours, and your species will be permitted to continue existing under Dominion rule. Resist, and face extinction." To emphasize the point, one of the dreadnoughts fired a single shot at the moon, vaporizing a crater 50 miles wide in an instant. The United Nations Emergency Assembly convened within minutes. Ambassadors, presidents, and prime ministers watched the replay of the moon's scarring. The message was clear: surrender or die. "We have no choice," argued the ambassador from France. "Look at what one shot did. They could erase us in minutes." 4 hours, said the British Prime Minister. "They're giving us 4 hours to end human sovereignty forever." In a bunker beneath Colorado, General Marcus Torres watched the same footage. A career military officer who'd fought in 3 wars, he'd seen surrender before. He'd also seen what happened to people who surrendered to those without mercy. "Get me every military leader on a secure line," he ordered. "And find me that astronaut-turned-engineer, Dr. Rachel Kim. If anyone knows how to fight in space, it's her." Within 90 minutes, an encrypted conference connected military leaders from 40 nations. The debate was fierce. Surrender seemed logical. The aliens had destroyed 147 worlds. What chance did Earth have? But then General Torres spoke. "I've read about every one of those 147 conquests that we could find in their broadcast data. You know what I noticed? Not one species fought back. Not really. They saw the demonstration of power and folded immediately. But here's the thing about humans, we're really, really stupid about surrendering." A laugh rippled through the connection, nervous but genuine. Dr. Kim joined the call from Houston. "I've been analyzing their ships. They're massive, but they're also arrogant. They're sitting in high orbit like they're untouchable. They think we're primitives who'll roll over like everyone else. Can we hurt them?" Torres asked bluntly. "Honestly? I don't know. But I know we won't find out by surrendering." She paused. "Every rocket with a satellite payload can be retargeted. Every nuclear arsenal is still active. We have submarines they can't detect. We have 7 billion angry primates who really don't like being told what to do." The 4-hour deadline approached. At the UN, diplomats prepared surrender documents. But in military installations worldwide, something else was being prepared. Commander Vexlar waited, confident. The pattern had held for 147 worlds. Earth would be no different. He would soon learn his first lesson about humanity: we'd rather die standing than live kneeling. With 30 seconds left on the deadline, every communication channel on Earth transmitted the same response. Not from the United Nations, not from any single government, but from a hastily assembled coalition that called itself the Terran Defense Council. The face on the screen belonged to General Torres, flanked by military leaders from a dozen nations. His words were simple. "No." Vexlar's mandibles twitched in confusion. "No? You've seen our power. You understand extinction?" "We understand you perfectly," Torres replied. "You're bullies. You show up, blow up something, and expect everyone to fall in line. Well, humanity has a long history with bullies. We tend to punch back." "Impossible. Your weapons are." The general cut him off. "Let me tell you about humans. We're the species that split the atom just to see what would happen. We're the apes who looked at the sky and said, 'I want to go there,' and then did it with computers less powerful than a modern calculator. We fight wars over ideas, over pride, over strips of land. You think we're going to surrender our entire planet without throwing a single punch?" Vexlar would have laughed if he understood human expressions. "Then you choose extinction. We choose resistance. And if we're going down, we're taking some of you with us." What happened next violated every pattern the Calrith Dominion had established across 147 worlds. From Earth's surface, converted ballistic missiles launched toward orbit. Not nuclear warheads, not yet, but kinetic kill vehicles packed with guidance systems and tungsten penetrators. Hundreds of them, rising on pillars of fire. From submarines scattered across Earth's oceans, nuclear-tipped missiles broke the surface. Their trajectories were wild, unpredictable, launched with such fury that even the Calrith targeting system struggled to track them all. The International Space Station, evacuated hours earlier, was remotely piloted on a collision course with the nearest dreadnought, its fuel tanks rigged to explode on impact. And from Earth's moon bases, installations the Calrith hadn't bothered to scan properly, rail guns opened fire, accelerating projectiles to a significant fraction of light speed. The Calrith shields, designed to repel sophisticated energy weapons, flickered under the assault of simple kinetic energy. Tungsten rods traveling at hypersonic speeds punched through the deflectors. Nuclear warheads detonated close enough to overwhelm sensors. The space station, a mere mote compared to the dreadnoughts, struck with enough force to buckle hull plating. One dreadnought, its shields compromised, took a direct hit from a lunar rail gun. The projectile, nothing but a tungsten telephone pole accelerated to crushing speed, pierced clean through the ship's midsection. Atmosphere vented into space. The mighty vessel listed, wounded. For the first time in Calrith history, one of their dreadnoughts had been damaged by a primitive species. Vexlar stared at his tactical display in disbelief. They're attacking us. How? Why? His tactical officer was equally stunned. Commander, they must know they cannot win. This is suicide. Maybe, Vexlar hissed, watching another wave of missiles rise from Earth's surface. But they're making it costly. By week 2, something unprecedented in Calrith history occurred. Commander Vexlar requested reinforcements. The High Command was stunned. You have 17 dreadnoughts, 15 functional, against a species that doesn't even have faster-than-light travel. How are you struggling? Vexlar transmitted battlefield footage. The High Command watched in silence as human fighters used buildings as cover, turned the Calrith's own weapons against them, and coordinated attacks with a speed and creativity that seemed impossible for such a primitive species. In one clip, Calrith soldiers pursued human combatants into a tunnel system. The humans collapsed the entrance behind them, sealed the exits, and flooded the tunnels with seawater. 50 elite Calrith warriors drowned in darkness. In another, a human pilot deliberately crashed his damaged aircraft into a Calrith dropship, sacrificing himself to save his city. Before impact, his last words were recorded: "Tell my daughter I love her. And tell these alien bastards we don't surrender." They're insane, Vexlar reported. They sacrifice themselves willingly. They mourn their dead with ceremonies, then return to fight with increased fury. We destroyed their capital cities, and they dispersed their governments. We target their military bases, and they fight from civilian areas. We eliminate their leaders, and new ones emerge immediately. A member of the High Command asked the obvious question: how many humans remain combat capable? Unknown. Our estimates range from several 100 million to over 1 billion. They've armed their entire population. Their elderly teach their young to build weapons. Their scientists work on war technology even as their cities burn. Their artists create propaganda that makes surrender unthinkable. Dr. Kim had indeed mobilized Earth's entire population. Factories that once made automobiles now produced drones. 3D printers fabricated weapons. Teenagers programmed cyber attacks. Grandparents manufactured ammunition in their basements. Every human was a soldier, every city a fortress, every citizen willing to die rather than submit. The Calrith, for the first time in their history, began experiencing something their species hadn't felt in millennia: fear. Calrith ground troops reported nightmares. They heard phantom sounds in empty buildings. They jumped at shadows. The psychological toll of fighting an enemy that could be anyone, anywhere, was breaking even their enhanced warrior conditioning. One Calrith officer transmitted a desperate message: they don't fight like soldiers. They fight like they have nothing to lose. Because they don't. Every human sees themselves as the last line of defense. There are no civilians here, only combatants waiting to fight. On day 19, humanity achieved something extraordinary. Using salvaged Calrith technology and brilliant improvisation, human engineers managed to bring down a damaged dreadnought with a virus uploaded during a cyber attack. The massive ship crashed into the Pacific Ocean, and within hours, human salvage teams were stripping it for technology. They're reverse engineering our ships, Vexlar reported, his voice hollow. In weeks, they've learned what took us centuries. The High Command made their decision: eliminate the species entirely. Orbital bombardment. Render the planet uninhabitable. Vexlar hesitated. For the first time in his career, the thought of genocide bothered him. These stubborn, impossible humans had earned something he'd never given another species: respect. But orders were orders. Dr. Kim knew the endgame was approaching. Intelligence suggested the Calrith were preparing for total planetary bombardment. Earth had perhaps 48 hours before the surface became a burning wasteland. "We need a miracle," General Torres said bluntly. "No," Dr. Kim replied, exhausted but determined. "We need a gamble. And humanity's best weapon has always been our unpredictability." She outlined her plan to the Terran Defense Council. It was audacious. Insane. Perfectly human. "You want to do what?" a Chinese general asked, incredulous. "We fake our own annihilation," she repeated. "And then we hit them where they're not expecting it." The plan required precision. Every nuclear weapon Earth possessed, thousands of warheads, would be detonated in a coordinated pattern across the planet's surface. The explosions would create massive dust clouds, electromagnetic interference, and enough thermal signatures to suggest Earth was destroying itself. The Calrith would assume humanity chose extinction over surrender. They'd lower their guard for critical hours. In that window, humanity would strike with everything they had left. "It's insane," Torres muttered. Then he smiled. "Which means it might actually work." The operation began at dawn. Across Earth, cities were evacuated to underground shelters, bunkers dug over the previous weeks. The surface was abandoned. Then, in a carefully orchestrated sequence, thousands of nuclear weapons detonated. From orbit, it looked like planetary suicide. The Calrith sensors registered the cascading explosions, the radiation spikes, the thermal blooms. Vexlar watched the planet below seemingly tear itself apart. "They chose extinction," his tactical officer whispered. "Rather than surrender, they killed themselves." But they'd missed the preparations. Hidden in the deepest oceans, protected by water and lead-lined hulls, humanity's last submarines waited. On the dark side of the moon, in caverns the Calrith hadn't properly scanned, rail gun batteries came online. And in the asteroid belt, where human mining operations had been dismissed as irrelevant, ships were preparing to launch. 6 hours after the suicide, as the Calrith fleet prepared to leave Earth's orbit to report the world's destruction, humanity struck. Submarine-launched missiles broke through the dust clouds. Lunar batteries fired. Asteroid mining ships, retrofitted with salvaged Calrith engines, accelerated toward the fleet on suicide runs. But the real weapon was simpler: the virus. While the Calrith had been busy monitoring Earth's destruction, every piece of salvaged technology humanity had reverse-engineered became a backdoor. Dr. Kim's team had embedded a virus in the salvaged equipment, designed to activate simultaneously across the Calrith fleet's network. The virus didn't destroy the ships. It did something worse: it locked the Calrith out of their own systems. Dreadnoughts spun helplessly. Weapons wouldn't fire. Shields flickered. The mighty Calrith Dominion fleet found itself paralyzed above a planet they'd thought was dead. And from Earth's surface, from the moon, from every hidden position, humanity launched its final assault. Vexlar watched his command codes fail. His weapons offline. His mighty dreadnought drifting helplessly as human missiles approached. His last thought before the first impact was simple: we shouldn't have underestimated them. 3 months after the Battle of Earth, Commander Vexlar stood in a human detention facility, awaiting trial for war crimes. The Calrith Dominion had sent diplomats, not warriors, to negotiate for the surviving crew members. Earth had won. Not through superior technology. Not through overwhelming force. But through sheer, bloody-minded refusal to accept defeat. Of the 17 dreadnoughts that had arrived, 11 were destroyed or captured. The surviving 6 had fled, carrying word back to the Dominion that would change galactic history. Dr. Kim visited Vexlar's cell. She looked tired. Earth had lost nearly 1 billion people during the conflict. Entire regions were radioactive. But humanity had survived, and more importantly, maintained their independence. Why? Vexlar asked. You knew you might lose. Why fight so hard? Dr. Kim considered the question. Because you gave us a choice between submission or death. So we chose door number 3, make you regret ever giving us that ultimatum. Humans are weird that way. Tell us something is impossible, and we'll kill ourselves trying to prove you wrong. We conquered 147 worlds, Vexlar said softly. In 3 months, you reduced my fleet to debris. How? Because those 147 worlds were smart. They saw your power and surrendered logically. But humans aren't always logical. We're emotional, stubborn, and we've spent our entire history fighting each other. You were just another enemy. And we're very, very good at making enemies regret starting fights. She handed him a data pad showing news from across the galaxy. The Battle of Earth had been broadcast, intentionally leaked by human intelligence services. The 147 conquered worlds were watching. And they were inspired. Rebellions were starting on 12 planets. Species that had surrendered without fighting were now questioning their subjugation. The Calrith Dominion, built on inevitability and fear, was discovering that Earth had destroyed something more important than ships, their reputation. You've started a galactic war, Vexlar said. No, Dr. Kim corrected. We finished one. Your people started it when they decided conquest was easier than diplomacy. We just reminded the galaxy that bullies can be beaten. It's messy. It's costly. But it's possible. The Calrith Dominion sued for peace 3 weeks later. Not because Earth defeated them militarily, the Dominion still had thousands of ships, but because continuing the war meant fighting a species that had proven they would rather die than submit, and whose example was now inspiring rebellion across 147 worlds. The treaty was simple: mutual non-aggression, technology exchange, and reparations for the damage done to Earth. The Dominion would withdraw from 12 systems as a gesture of good faith. General Torres summed up humanity's victory in the history books: we didn't win by being stronger. We won by being too stubborn to lose. The Calrith conquered 147 worlds through intimidation. They reached Earth and learned that some species refuse to be intimidated. We taught them that victory isn't about who has the bigger gun, it's about who's willing to keep fighting when every logical reason says to quit. Earth rebuilt. The captured technology accelerated human advancement by centuries. Within a generation, humanity had its own FTL drives, its own colonies, its own place at the galactic table. And whenever a species considered aggression against Earth, they remembered Commander Vexlar's fleet, 17 dreadnoughts, reduced to scrap by primitives who refused to accept the inevitable. The galaxy learned an important lesson: humans are capable of tremendous beauty, incredible innovation, and profound wisdom. But threaten their freedom, and they'll show you a capacity for violence and stubborn resistance that defies all logic. They conquered 147 worlds without resistance. Then they reached Earth. And everything changed.